Right, hello and welcome to this lesson, which is going to look at what you need to cover for P3. And P3 is where we get creative in Unit 17 and we actually try and come up with some ideas for potential new IoE devices. So far you guys have submitted a range of proposals, and today I'm going to run through the ones that I feel might be the best to kind of develop and move forward with this particular assignment. If you feel that you want to develop a proposal that I don't cover in this presentation, then please just email me and check it over with me before you spend time writing and developing it. Okay, but basically at the end of this presentation you're going to be expected to pick 3 different ideas. Just one key thing to remember there is that each idea must belong to a different category out of the 5 that we've got, so just remember that when you're choosing them, and then sort of begin to lay the foundations of what that idea might be and how it might work and so on. Okay, but still very early stages. Actually, the assignment that follows on from this will pick one of those 3 ideas and really develop and focus on it in more detail. So yeah, we're still very much at the organic stage of sort of beginning to throw ideas out there and think about which ones could be best. Okay, so out of the proposals that I received, these are the ones that I feel could be suitable for us. Okay. So the first one that we've got is the idea of self-cleaning windows. Now when you hear these ideas, by all means you might want to put your own spin on this. Okay, so now the physics of whether you can actually get a window to self-clean itself is quite an interesting one here, and might sort of curtail and prevent this one from being an idea. But the reason why I like it is, well, I live in a block of flats, and cleaning windows in flats is a bit of a problem. In fact, we have to pay for people to come and abseil off the building to clean them. Okay, I have seen technologies with utilizing drone type technologies to actually clean windows, but as yet I haven't seen an actual product that is available for people to do this for themselves. So you know, the idea of self-cleaning windows or being able to clean windows remotely in certain contexts could be a potential idea, and so that could be one to have a think about and look into, and whether or not drone type technology could be utilized in this way, or maybe you might have another way in which it could be implemented, could be a good idea to think about developing. The next idea which I came across that I quite liked, and this is obviously in the body and health category and very simple potentially, but could be quite useful, is the smart dumbbell. And I can imagine if you've got various sensors in the dumbbell themselves, maybe accelerometers, Bluetooth connection to a phone perhaps, that you would actually then be able to measure the amount of reps that you've done. That could be logged, transmitted to an app perhaps, and yeah, allow you to just avoid having to do the note taking and remembering of what you were lifting, and being able to set goals and targets and measure yourself. I imagine there's a whole range of different spins that you could put on that. It might be that you're thinking about putting smart technologies in other types of fitness equipment, but I think that there's an idea there that could be developed. So there's another one. This one I quite like. So again, so the idea of smart fire detectors, I don't think there's too much on the market that already exists in this category. It really does make a lot of sense when you think about it. How many people, when they hear an alarm going off, just actually ignore that alarm and don't actually do anything about it? Possibility, of course, that the fire actually starts whilst you're away from your home, and thus again, if people are just ignoring it and you're not there to actually do anything about it, then that could obviously be quite a big issue. So if you have a smart fire alarm, maybe that has the ability to communicate with a fire department of its own accord, or the ability to actually notify and inform the user via a text or some kind of application, or something along those lines, then that sounds potentially like there's an idea there. What else could you include in that alarm system though to make it useful? I mean, could you potentially have this as a multi-purpose alarm, embedding a few cameras in there potentially, so you can actually remotely view what's going on inside your property whilst you're away? So there are different twists and spins that you could put on this device. You might want to think about some of those ideas. So I think that's got some potential as well. Okay, building on the security theme as well. So RoboGuard 2000, you don't necessarily need to stick with that name, but the idea I think has potential. So if you were able to have some kind of remote control device that's able to move around your home whilst you're away, that you have cameras embedded in, so that you can get live feeds, trigger alarms and alerts and so on, noise detection perhaps, then it would then give you the ability to maybe remote in, have a look around and check that everything is tickety-boo in the property, and give you that peace of mind. So again, you might find different spins on that, different purposes, but certainly that sounds like it could be a realistic product, and I'm not aware of anything in particular at the minute that is sort of designed with that kind of intention in mind, so that could be worth investigating too. The smart wardrobe, I'm not quite sure about the actual description for this one, particularly the first one. So monitoring the dirtiness of clothes. I don't know if you could have some sort of smell detector or something that you might use to determine that. But I think certainly the second point sounds quite interesting, doesn't it? So you've been able to open a wardrobe, get information about the forecast for that day, and what clothing might be the most suitable. Possibly could be something in that. I don't know. That's for you to decide, and who that would be applied for, and so on. So interesting one for you to consider. There could be some mileage in that as well as an idea to develop. Okay. The smart oven, so this is a slightly trickier one because I think smart ovens, they are a thing, they do exist. So I guess the key thing here is in what ways is your oven smart and how can it be differentiated from products already on the market. There are some obvious things to kind of talk about here, aren't there? So the ability to be able to remote control your oven, rather than having to, if you're out at work and you've left something in the oven that you want to be ready when you get home, being able to kind of communicate that to the oven, so you don't have to get back and then wait half an hour for it to cook. It's just there ready to go. Maybe having some detectors in there or alerts about burning food perhaps. If you have a habit of doing that, like my partner, perhaps that could be a good idea to include, and give you warnings on that for things like the classic being oven chips potentially. So actually this student came up with ideas around actually monitoring the amount of calories in the food, and sort of displaying that back to the user and recording that. So maybe slightly trickier, that one to kind of actually technically introduce, but there's maybe some ideas then. It might be worth looking at existing smart ovens and seeing if you can come up with a spin or a feature that they don't already have. The smart beanie. So again, nice and simple one here, and we're sort of in the clothing category, aren't we? And being able to listen to music on the go, not having to kind of remember to sort of fetch some headphones, so probably limited in terms of its benefits, this device, but clothing and smart clothing in general could be a place to go and have a think about, because there's not a huge amount of products that exist in this area. So the smart beanie is just an idea really, but you might be able to come up with something better. Being able to interact with your phone as well, we've got here as well, so microphone being embedded in that somewhere, from the sounds of it. The smart flower pot, I quite like it. Again, a nice simple one, but again, benefits here of being able to release water into the soil, to make sure that you've got the right level of nutrients in there for that flower to grow at its optimum rate. Sounds like it could potentially be a good idea, particularly for users maybe who are going to be away from home for a period of time, and don't want to have to bother someone to have to come around to their house to actually do that on their behalf. information about the amount of light the plant's receiving, and the types of plants that can grow in the conditions that are available in the position of where the flower pot is located within the house, etc. So you get the optimum growth. Yeah, I think there's some interesting ideas there that you could play around with on that particular one. Digital signposts. So straightforward here. You do see some signposts already on motorways. Could they be improved? Could we bring some IoT element into them? On here it sort of talks about the use of advertising potentially, so you may feel there's an idea in there perhaps. Smart bins I quite like as an idea, so the smart bin idea, so monitoring and sort of the bin sensing how much recycling you're doing, collecting that. I can imagine this working quite well in a family household, and maybe having internal competitions with members of the family about who's doing the most recycling and putting the most cardboard and plastic and so on into the bin, detecting the quality of the recycling, and notifying councils when it's ready to be removed. I guess that's more for a public bin, which I think is what this next one is. Actually, we had another smart bin collection one, but you can imagine this bin wouldn't be particularly useful for councils, and having a more efficient manner of being able to go around and do garbage collection in the first place when you've only got a limited resource. So not wasting time going to bins that are half full, and prioritising the bins which need to be replaced. So that would more maybe geared towards councils in terms of people buying them. Okay, and you can see some of the other benefits that this candidate has thought about as well. So that one's certainly got potential, I feel, as well. And then we've got the smart chair, and I quite like this one again. So quite prevalent at the minute, isn't it, when we're spending a lot of time at home and sat down. So a chair that's actually providing you information and analytics about how you're sitting, how long you're sitting for, your posture, reminding you to take breaks, etc., and relieving sort of some back pain that often is associated with prolonged sedentary lifestyles. Could potentially be a good idea to develop too. Okay, so they're the different ideas. They're the ones that I would recommend you pick from to sort of for your free proposals. You're starting P3 today, so that's this one here, potential development projects. It's a past piece of work, so in terms of setting this up in your Word document, you just need the title, which is there, and then your three headings: proposal 1, proposal 2, proposal 3. Okay, and then you're just going to provide a description for each of the proposals you're thinking of potentially developing in the next assignment. So we're going to pick three proposals, and by all means put your own spin on them. You don't need to use them as they've been described in this presentation. They're just ideas, but hopefully they've got some good ideas there, and maybe your own creativity and your own spin, but you're more than welcome to apply that. Remember that your proposals, you can only have one proposal for a particular category. Okay, so 3 of the 5 categories should be covered, and then what do you need to cover? Well, 4 things really. What area is this device going to sit in terms of its category? What is the actual idea? Who's it going to be targeted at? And what are the actual benefits of the device? And I'll sort of go through this in a little bit more detail now. So when we're talking about the device itself, obviously some information about the types of sensors the device will contain, maybe in a little bit more detail than we have done originally. What kind of connectivity is it going to need in terms of communicating the information? Where's it going to send data? So is it going to be stored on other devices? Is it going to get uploaded to a cloud, etc.? And I also want you to think about the power for this device. So is it something that's going to be sort of plugged into a mains power supply because it's not going to move anywhere, or is it something that's going to need to be mobile? Maybe it might need some solar power, or it's going to need some battery power, etc. So think about ideas in relation to that. What data will the actual device collect? What type of data will it collect? Where's the data going to be stored? Okay, so again, under the device, and the processing. So again, what kind of information is the device going to create, and which category does it sit in terms of machine to machine, machine to person, person to person, etc. And what's the actual useful information the system produces? Okay, and then finally, just a little bit about the market, who you're aiming this at. So who's going to be the endpoint and the participant, or you might just be an endpoint, and what's going to be the benefit for them in terms of wanting to buy this device. And that might be for an individual customer level, it might be a company level if you're thinking about councils who you're potentially going to sell your device to. Okay, here's an exemplar showing you, so it's a past piece of work, so I'm not after War and Peace here. This is an adequate description, and you can see it covers those areas that we need here. If you do that 3 times, then that's enough for this particular assignment.